What if the lost continent of Atlantis isn't just a myth, but a warning etched into the very fabric of time? Edgar Cayce, a humble photographer from Kentucky, closed his eyes and spoke of a technologically advanced civilization that drowned beneath the waves. He claimed this wasn't mere fantasy, but a psychic transmission from a cosmic repository called the Akashic Records. Cayce predicted that proof of this sunken empire would physically rise from the ocean floor near a specific island in the Bahamas. Decades later, in 1968, pilots flying over Bimini spotted a massive J-shaped formation of stones hidden just beneath the clear Atlantic water. The Bimini Road became an instant sensation, igniting a firestorm of debate between alternative archaeologists and mainstream geologists. But the road was just the appetizer for a much darker and more urgent prophecy that Cayce had delivered years earlier. He didn't just describe the past. He set a ticking clock for the future, a date when the ghosts of Atlantis would violently reshape our modern world. To understand the prophecy, you have to understand the staggering power source Cayce described, a technology we are only now beginning to grasp. He spoke of the Great Crystal, a monstrous multifaceted stone that harnessed solar and cosmic radiation and converted it into limitless energy. This crystal powered everything: flying ships that could traverse the globe, elevators through the earth, and even rejuvenation chambers that extended life. But the crystal was a double-edged sword, and its misuse by a faction Cayce called the Sons of Belial triggered a catastrophic chain reaction. These materialistic Atlanteans tuned the crystal to lower, denser frequencies for selfish power and control, turning a source of light into a weapon of fire. Cayce explained that this caused a series of 3 cataclysms, the final one submerging the last island of Poseidia in a single terrible day and night. Here is where the prophecy becomes terrifyingly specific. Cayce claimed the records of this civilization were stored in a sealed hall of records. He located one of these time capsules beneath the right paw of the Great Sphinx of Giza, linking Atlantis directly to the mystery of ancient Egypt. He said this hall holds the history of Atlantis and the keys to a lost technology that could either free humanity or destroy it all over again. But the most chilling prediction wasn't about the past. It was about a specific window of time, 1958 to 1998. Cayce warned that during this period, the Earth would enter a cycle of dramatic geological upheaval as a direct karmic echo of Atlantis's destruction. He prophesied that the greater portion of Japan must go into the sea, and that the coastlines of Europe and America would be changed overnight. He even foresaw the eruption of Mount Etna and a volcanic explosion in the South Pacific that would shift the very poles of the planet. Skeptics immediately point out that his predictions of a rising Atlantic and a new landmass appearing near Bermuda simply did not physically happen by 1998. But believers argue that Cayce's timeline wasn't about literal geology, but about a seismic shift in human consciousness and a warning about our own technological hubris. Consider this: the Great Crystal he described functions identically to a modern solid-state laser, a technology not invented until decades after his death. Cayce said the Atlanteans used crystals for data storage, encoding information within their atomic structure, a direct parallel to today's crystal-based quantum memory. He claimed they harnessed the night side of life, or the unseen forces of the universe, a perfect metaphor for dark energy and dark matter, which make up 95% of our cosmos. The Sons of Belial weren't monsters. They were a faction driven by unchecked materialism, a mirror image of our own global fossil fuel dependency. Is it possible the destruction of Atlantis was a cautionary tale transmitted psychically, a mythic encoding of a civilization that reached a technological tipping point and failed? Edgar Cayce said the records would be found when humanity was ready, when the time had come for a new cycle of enlightenment. Maybe the land rising wasn't a physical continent, but the rising of this lost knowledge into our collective awareness through the internet and global communication. The Bimini Road remains controversial. Geologists claim it's natural beach rock, fractured into neat rectangles by simple erosion. Yet, divers have found what appear to be keystone cuts, metal spikes, and prop stones underneath the massive blocks, suggesting human engineering. And what of the other halls of records? Cayce mentioned one in the Yucatan, buried beneath a temple, waiting to be unearthed. He predicted that evidence of Atlantis would be found in the Pyrenees Mountains and in Morocco, places where the Atlantean refugees supposedly fled. Perhaps the most profound aspect of Cayce's readings is the concept that we are the reincarnated souls of the Atlanteans, facing the same tests again. He claimed our technological acceleration in the 20th and 21st centuries is a cosmic replay, giving us a second chance to use power with wisdom. The warning is clear. The fire crystal of Atlantis is now the nuclear missile. The power grid is the global energy network. The choice is the same. Edgar Cayce died in 1945, just before the atomic age truly began. But his readings specifically warned against the splitting of the atom as a repeat of the Atlantean mistake. He said the Atlanteans had not only split the atom, but had also harnessed a death ray from the crystal, a beam weapon that disintegrated matter. Did the Indian epics of flying vimanas and nuclear wars describe the same global conflict that Cayce saw in the final days of Poseidon? The vitrified forts of Scotland, where stone walls were melted into glass by intense heat, stand as physical evidence of a prehistoric cataclysm we cannot explain. Cayce's readings suggest a global network of Atlantean colonies, all communicating via crystal energy, forming a world-wide web of psychic and technological power. Nikola Tesla, a man obsessed with wireless energy transmission, may have been unconsciously tapping into the same Akashic blueprint that Cayce read. If the Hall of Records is ever opened, Cayce said it would not be by a pickaxe, but by a shift in vibration, a spiritual key that unlocks the physical door. This suggests the secret is not just in the finding but in the being. Humanity must reach a state of unity before the technology is revealed. The 1998 deadline has passed. The physical land of Atlantis did not rise. But did the information rise instead? The discovery of Göbekli Tepe, a 12,000-year-old temple complex buried deliberately, proves that sophisticated civilization existed far earlier than mainstream archaeology once admitted. This site is precisely the age that Cayce attributed to the final destruction of Atlantis, a time when survivors would have spread their knowledge. Cayce's prophecies about Earth changes may have been symbolic. The rising of Atlantis is the rising of the feminine, the intuitive, the psychic in a world dominated by the sons of Belial mindset. He said, the entity was in the Atlantean land when there were the disturbances, and the entity was among those that came into the Egyptian land. This connection between Atlantis and the dawn of dynastic Egypt is the missing puzzle piece. The Sphinx is not just a lion, it is a timekeeper. If the Sphinx is indeed a marker of the age of Leo from 12,000 years ago, it perfectly aligns with Cayce's timeline for the Atlantean diaspora. What did Cayce mean when he said that the knowledge from Atlantis was not merely technical, but a record of how to use spiritual forces for constructive purposes? He was describing a fusion of consciousness and machine, an interface where thought becomes a direct tool of creation and manipulation. The warning was that without a spiritual awakening, this technology becomes the terrible mighty crystal that burns from within. Edgar Cayce's readings are housed at the Association for Research and Enlightenment in Virginia Beach, a library of thousands of transcripts. Here, you can read the exact words of a man who, with an 8th grade education, described quantum physics and ancient history while asleep. The mystery remains. Was he a prophet, a psychic archaeologist, or the most elaborate subconscious fiction writer in American history? Perhaps the answer is less important than the effect. His words have sent thousands of people on a quest for a lost past and a better future. Cayce promised that the records would be opened when humanity had reached a point of balance, a time when we could handle the fire without getting burned. He predicted that an entity known as the Great Essene would return to guide this process, a spiritual teacher who would reveal the hidden mysteries. Whether you view this as the second coming of Christ, a new Buddha, or simply the awakening of our own higher collective intelligence, the archetype is the same. The final takeaway from the sleeping prophet is not fear, but a profound sense of responsibility. We are the returning Atlanteans. The earth changes he spoke of are happening, but perhaps not as a divine punishment. Perhaps they are the consequences of our own sons of Belial choices. Edgar Cayce's Atlantis is a mirror. It shows us a peak of human possibility and the abyss of our potential destruction. The prophecy is not closed. It is a living, breathing challenge. Will we find the Hall of Records within ourselves before it's too late? Part 2 covers the official explanation.